While Mom talked, Detective Shank watched me, still jotting things down. Is that what you did, Daniel? Yes, but I thought Erica was playing a trick on me. She does things like that. She looked at Dad and Mom, and they nodded. Sometimes Erica is very willful, Dad said. She's not happy here. I wanted to say, that goes for all of us, but I kept my mouth shut. Where did you live before you moved here? Fairfield, Connecticut, Dad said. Detective Shank leaned across the table. I know your daughter's only 7, but do you think she'd try to go back there? Dad and Mom looked at each other and shook their heads. None of us could picture Erica going to Connecticut. She had no money, and even if she did, what ticket seller would let her get on a bus all by herself? She's high-strung, fearful, Mom said. I can't imagine her being outside in the dark. She's afraid of the dark. She sleeps with the light on. Now Mom began to cry in earnest. She must be so scared and so cold. A policewoman came inside. We need something Erica has worn recently so that we can set the dogs on her trail. And a recent photograph, Detective Shank added. Dad went upstairs and came back with a pair of red socks Erica had worn the day before. Mom gave the police one of the recent set of school photographs. Beautiful little girl, Detective Shank said, but such a sad expression. She looked at us with narrowed eyes as if she were blaming us for everything. The policewoman went outside with the socks. Through the window, I saw the dogs sniff the socks before the police led them into the field. I can't believe this is happening, Mom said. It's like a nightmare. I know. The detective patted Mom's hand. Would you like tea? Mom nodded, and the woman went to the kitchen. Make yourself useful, Daniel, Dad said. Show her where things are. Please don't blame me for this, Dad. Dad looked around the room. I don't see anyone else to blame. In the kitchen, I went to the cabinet over the stove and got out cups and saucers. Detective Shank had already found tea bags and put the kettle on the stove. While we waited for the water to boil, she looked at me. When you and Erica were fighting, did you hit Erica, Daniel? Knock her down or hurt her somehow? Her question really upset me. Did she suspect me of harming Erica in some way or leaving her unconscious in the woods? I shoved her, I admitted, and she fell down, but not hard. She jumped up and ran away from me. Are you sure that's all you did? I'd never hurt my sister. Of course you wouldn't, not on purpose. She looked at my face closely and touched the scratches on my cheek. Did Erica do this? It was a branch. She shoved it out of her way, and it swung back and hit me. The thorn scratched me, not my sister. What were you fighting about? I told you. She was mad about the doll. She said it was my fault it was gone. Why did you prevent Erica from picking up the doll yesterday? It was almost dark. We had to go home. I don't understand what difference it would have made to pick up the doll. I started crying. I couldn't help it. I should have let her get the doll. She really loves it. I wish I had, but I don't like being in the woods when it's dark. The tea kettle started whistling while I was trying to explain. Mom heard it, I guess, and came to the door. What's going on? She asked the detective. Daniel's a minor. You have no right to question him without my permission. I'm just trying to understand why the doll was left in the woods yesterday, ma'am. It seems peculiar. That's a funny word. Mom turned off the stove and the kettle's shrill whistle stopped. She put an arm around me and I leaned against her, incredibly thankful for her protection. I had begun to think that my whole family, as well as everyone else in Woodville, hated me, including Detective Irma Shank. I was scared, I finally admitted. I was scared to stop for the doll. What were you afraid of? Detective Shank shook her head as if she didn't believe me. You don't look like the sort of boy who's easily scared. I thought I saw something in the woods, in the shadows, I told her. I was scared it was coming after Erica and me. Detective Shank seemed unconvinced. Probably she'd already decided I had more to do with Erica's disappearance than what I was saying. Mom spoke up. The children have been very nervous, anxious. They're not used to living in the country with no neighbors. It's so dark at night. They're imaginative. Mom held me tighter. She was crying again. Daniel has told you all he knows. Please spend your time searching for Erica. She's out there in the cold, and you're sitting here questioning Daniel as if you suspect him of harming his sister. Detective Shank got to her feet. Children often know more than they let on, she said with a glance at me. I'm trying to understand all the aspects, ma'am. Believe me, I want to find your daughter as much as you do. With that, the detective left the house and joined the police, who were now searching the shed. Do you still want tea, Mom? She nodded, and I made us both a cup. Do you think Dad wants one? He's outside, no doubt making a nuisance of himself. Cup in hand, she went to the window and stared past the reflection of the kitchen into the darkness beyond. Where can she be, Daniel? Suddenly, Dad barged into the kitchen with a couple of cops. He was holding Erica's knit hat, the one she'd worn yesterday. One of the dogs found it caught on a branch, he said, about a mile from here. A mile. How could she have gone that far? Mom took the hat and pressed it to her face. Crying softly, she continued to gaze into the darkness beyond the window. "Where are the dogs?" I asked. "Are they still on Erica's trail?" Dad gestured toward the squad cars and the ambulance still parked near the house. "Out there. They lost her scent not long after they found her hat." I stared at Dad. "But they'll find her, right?" "Yes, of course. Tomorrow they'll ask for volunteers to form lines and search the woods. It'll be better in the daylight. They can..." His voice dropped and he stared out the window. "I can't believe this." Before the police left, the officer in charge told us to get some sleep, to hope for the best. Erica was probably lost, but with the help of volunteer searchers, they'd find her tomorrow. I can't speak for my parents, but I doubt they slept much that night. I certainly didn't. For hours, I sat in my bedroom window, willing Erica to find her way out of the woods. "I'll never tease you again or get mad at you, I promised. Just come home. Please, Erica, come home. I'm so, so sorry." Alright, that was chapter 9.